I've got such a fun one for you today. Do you ever find yourself playing the Pokemon TCG and get so frustrated when your opponent attaches energy to a Pokemon and then attacks your Pokemon with damage that may or may not wipe out your Pokemon? Or they have a beautiful Stage 2 Pokemon set up on the bench and they switch it into active to then stomp the field? Well, I made a deck that puts a stop to all of that. And just when my opponent thinks things are painful enough, I promise there's more pain waiting for them next turn. This is the 825 Deck Challenge. Today's deck is all about Spidops, and I'm about to drop the deck list right here, right now. I only hoped this week's deck would be a meta champion, because unfortunately I'm currently on quite the Veluza loser streak. Spidops EX has a pretty unique ability in that if in play it adds a single retreat cost to my opponent's active Pokemon. Then its attack for 1 Grass Energy and 1 Colorless Energy Wire Hanger does 90 plus 30 damage for each energy in my opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. Meaning due to Spidops' ability, I'm hitting for at bare minimum 120. But here's the thing, Spidops stacks. So if I have 4 Spidops out, not only am I further trapping my opponent's Pokemon in active, but I'm also hitting for a bigger number. The deck was just getting started there. To keep things as original as possible, I intentionally try not to look at other deck builds for Pokemon when building for this challenge, but I'd guess some versions of this deck run Ariados, which has another retreat adding ability to make Spidops hit even bigger. But I thought going all in on just the retreat lock could be risky with Latias EX, the new Water Stadium, and switches as ways to get around it. So I paired it with another suffocating Pokemon, Espathra EX. Espathra has an ability that when inactive adds a colorless energy to all of your opponent's attack costs, and then its attack, Psyball, does 30 damage plus an additional 30 for every energy attached to both active Pokemon. So between the retreat lock and needing an additional energy to attack, my opponent was going to need to work hard to do pretty much anything. Turning a single energy attach move into a 2 energy attach move alone would buy me an additional turn to attack. The deck was missing 2 things, Energy Acceleration to help Espathra hit bigger and let Spidops attack, as well as Draw Engine. So I ran 4 Teal Mask Ogerpons to Teal Dance for the energy attach. Its attack also has the same damage output and effect as Espathra's, so it could be a good backup attacker as well. Of course, Fezandipiti was here for his flipping the script. Flip that script! Then the only remaining Pokemon I had, just for some potential game stall, was Budew. Item Lock, Attach Energy Manipulation, Retreat Lock, and that was all just the Pokemon. The trainer cards I had here dialed things up to 100. While I'd be using Teal Mask to get the energy attached, energy switches would be used to move the energy over to attack. I also had 4 Crushing Hammers, which is an item that lets me flip a coin and if it lands on heads, takes one of my opponent's energy attached to a Pokemon and put it into their discard. So while it would mean Espathra or Teal Mask Ogerpon may be attacking for less, it would mean my opponent would be much further away from actually attacking or possibly retreating. I had 4 bug catching sets as it could help search out the Teal Masks, Espathras, Grass Energy, Spidops, and Tarountulas. And with so many of those filling my deck, bug catching set would give me plenty of choices. Wanting to stack Spidops on my bench and have the Teal Masks for Draw Engine, I decided to run 2 Area 0 Underdepths to expand my bench. The Pokemon that were in front of me would be very important, so I had 3 Boss's Orders and 1 Counter Catcher for specific targeted gust up. Arven to grab Buddy Poffins, as well as Air Balloons to help shift my own Pokemon around as needed. And lastly, because what would a post Mega Evolutions deck be without it, Lillie's Determination for some quality card draw. So the plan was clear, don't let my opponent attack, retreat lock specific Pokemon, and collect my prizes. The vision was clear, but would it translate into play? It was time to test it out. I'll be honest, my nerves were really high here. Even though this was just a test match, I had such a clear vision but was so worried that I was missing something major. Going first, I utilized my bug catching set and got my bench set up utilizing some Teal Dancing. Getting Teal Mask Ogerpon in active turn 1 was always going to be my turn 1 priority, as the chances of a knockout onto Teal Mask Ogerpon on my opponent's first turn would be highly unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. My opponent was running the Lunatone, Solrock Mega Lucario deck everyone's being swarmed with on live. And I loved this hilarious turn 2 supporter they played straight from the bargain bin, the new Lieutenant Surge's Bargain. And I went ahead and took them up on the offer for a free prize card. Thanks. Such a weird card, but I didn't want to give my opponent 4 free cards on their first turn. I evolved up into my Spidops, Arven for a Buddy Poffin, and Air Balloon to get Ogerpon out of active, and swap in Spidops. Then Energy Switch the Grass Energy onto Spidops to attack onto the active Makuna Hatata for knockout. The match pretty much fell apart after this for my opponent. I'm not sure if they just couldn't find their Mega Lucario or what fully happened, but no energy was coming to them, they weren't able to do much attacking. They also played a Lillie's Determination, which only gave them a 6-card hand instead of 8 due to that skillful bargain made earlier in the match. They couldn't get going, and I got knockout after knockout on their Lunatone, and then another one of their Makuna Hatadas. What a wonderful Pokemon. Quick disclaimer, I know that the Pokemon's actual name is Makuhita. I'll be honest, until editing this episode, I've seriously never even considered this Pokemon, nor what its name is or isn't. I had a relatively decisive win here and went on to my second test match, which was more so a decisive loss. I did get a prize card, but my opponent got their secret box and Mega Abomasnowed me. I've been having a lot of fun with the new cards from Mega Evolutions. This match made me excited for when I eventually get around to playing with Abomasnow, as it's like Missy's deck from Death and Rivals on steroids. Also, real quick, here's an Itchy Pollen followed by Total Decimation.
Itchy, itchy, itchy.
Headshot.
The third test match was more how I wanted these games to be going. Matched up against the Lunatone Solrock Lucario deck again. I only had Flittle as a basic to start, but going first I was able to bug catching set for Teal Mask Ogerpon to shift Teal Mask into active. I also grabbed an Espathra EX with my bug catching set, so on my next turn, utilizing Arven, I'd be able to pull Teal Mask Ogerpon out and get Espathra in to get the first knockout of the match on Solrock. This was a great spot to be in, because with Mega Lucario now evolved up and active, but no energy attached, I knew it wouldn't be attacking on this turn. They did get their bench set up with some additional Pokemon, including a strange Squawkabilly EX, and it went back over to me. With Boss in hand, I went to get as much damage onto the Mega Lucario here as I could, knowing that on its next turn it may be able to hit for 130, so I swung for 150. My opponent returned with a respectable Boss's Order onto my Spidops, and could have gone for the knockout here, but then my opponent disappeared. And in the moment I thought that this was maybe just a casual disconnect, but upon rewatching the playback, I think they realized that I'd most likely be able to take the game, as the trade-off due to its abilities and the attacks in play would have ultimately led to the Lucario going down to Espathra, and me then being only 2 prizes away. I can't be positive it would have gone my way had they not left, but I do think I had the odds in my favor. I was shutting down these decks, and little did I know going to the final match that this wasn't the last time I'd be against a Mega Lucario deck. But would my final matchup end like my first 2 encounters with the deck? It was time to find out. It all comes down to this. Spidops needed to win here, and this final match was such a good one. At first, just a Monkey Dory stared me down from my opponent's side, and I had a straightforward starting hand with 2 Teal Masks and a Flittle. I put 1 Teal Mask into active, and the Flittle and other Teal Mask onto my bench. I had 3 Grass Energy in hand, so I knew I'd get some card draw here. After my first Teal dance, I drew into a Psychic Energy, which I attached to Flittle, and then passed. I could have done a second Teal dance, but thought attaching the 2 Grass Energy next turn to the active Teal Mask so that I could attack may be necessary. My opponent got set up, and I was actually shocked to see with the Monkey Dory inactive that I was going against the fighting crew that I'd been fighting against all day. They also pulled off an intimidatingly clean Squawk and Seize with Squawkabilly EX, discarding no cards and drawing brand new 6 cards. Plus they crispined, so they had energy on Monkey Dory with a frustrating Bravery Charm and a fighting energy already onto one of the benched Riolus. I top decked into a Lillie's Determination, which was exactly what I would need here. I'd attach the 2 Grass Energies here and use the Crushing Hammer in hand, which would pull up very lucky heads, which I immediately used on the fighting energy across the way on Riolu. Then a big Lillie's Determination for 8 new cards. I wasn't sure where things were gonna go, and knowing I had a number of options with the cards in my hand, I felt comfortable passing one more turn. I would have attacked the Monkey Dory, but felt giving him damage to Adrenabrain back over my way, especially with a 50 HP Flittle on my bench, felt too risky. The Mega Lucario came alive next turn, and my opponent retreated, discarding a Dark Energy and sent Lucario up to hit for the 130 Aura Jab. They attached an energy to the benched Riolu, and then it was back to me, with so many options. I ended up using the Arven to grab an Air Balloon out of the deck along with a Crushing Hammer. The Crushing Hammer play here would have to be major, and again, luck was on my side. We were able to scrap the energy from Mega Lucario for our second successful Crushing Hammer. I also attached another Psychic Energy to the Flittle on the bench. Feeling comfortable with the lack of energy on my opponent's side, I used Teal Mask Ogerpon's attack for 120 to start to whittle down the Mega Lucario's massive 340 HP. My opponent was able to get their benched Riolu up to Mega Lucario, but had no access to energy and so had to pass it back over to me. This was exactly what I wanted. My opponent wasn't able to play. A Lillie's Determination here could have gotten me some great cards, but I felt like I had some time still, and so I opted to Arven again, this time just grabbing a Buddy-Buddy Poffin so I could get the other half of my tormenting deck ready, the Tarountulas. I attacked again, and my opponent drew another card, bringing their hand to 2 cards. Again, they had to pass. Evolving up one of my Tarountulas to Spidops, I now went for the Lillie's Determination to get 8 cards and got 3 of my energy switches and another Grass Energy to attach. Still, no Espathra though, as I went for the Myriad Leaf Shower and knocked out Mega Lucario in active, giving me 3 prizes. The Mega Lucario that's been on the bench this whole time was now able to come up and Aura Jab for the knockout on one of my Teal Mask Ogerpons, taking 2 prizes for themselves. Now we had a match going. I promoted my Flittle simply because of the Air Balloon I had on it and top decked into the Espathra. I also used the bug catching set that I had gotten in my prizes on the previous turn to retrieve another Spidops and Tarountula, now further trapping the active Mega Lucario. A mistake I made here was not playing Area 0 to expand my bench space to play the Fez for a draw 3. It just completely slipped my mind. And then I made a play that was a little risky. I could have put damage onto the Mega Lucario in active, but instead wanted to get an additional KO here just to get 1 prize closer to the finish. So I brought up the Soul Rock for a KO. My opponent responded with a Mega Lucario back in active and a Boss's Order to one of my Spidops and 130 dished out damage. It was a good thing I saved those energy switches because I Crushing Hammered successfully the Soul Fighting energy on the Mega Lucario, switched an energy over to my Spidops, attached another, and hit for 210. Because of the 4 retreat costs on the Mega Lucario here, I felt like I had the game locked up so long as they didn't find a way to get the Mega Lucario out of active. But then, a Nest Ball, just a bench Soul Rock, and with no energy to attach, they passed it back to me to allow Spidops to land the finishing blow. Those lucky hammer flips were insanely lucky and I think came in clutch in securing this win. I would have had to do a lot more strategic bossing otherwise. Spidops prevented my opponent from playing, and that makes it a meta champion. This was so much fun. The strategic use of Espathra's ability and Spidops' ability allowed for some really tough challenges for my opponents, and even though the attack output was lower, that didn't matter, because of how much time the 2 abilities combined were able to get me. I'd give this deck a 9 out of 10 for fun factor. For flow factor, I'd say it's an 8 out of 10. The Teal Dance, bug catching sets, and Fezandipiti, when I remember to play it, all allow for things to keep moving, and for me to find the necessary Pokemon. At points, my hand definitely got low, but usually that was with an already established board. For win equity, I'd say it's an 8 out of 10, or at least it feels like that. Most decks have a way around some of these abilities or really don't get thrown off too much by them. Something like Gholdengo might be inconvenienced by needing an additional energy attach and not using the Air Balloon hand draw tech, but I don't think it would kill Gholdengo. That gives this deck an average score of 8.3 out of 10. If you're looking for a deck that plays very unusually but creates a lot of great moments, this is the deck for you. The link for the deck, as always, is in the description. Spidops may be over, but he'll never be forgotten. Let's spin the wheel to find out which Pokemon will be the focus of next week's deck. Wimpod, interesting. And the cards that it evolves into are pretty underrated if you were to ask me, so I'm curious how they might do. All of this and more next week on the 825 Deck Challenge.